Everyone has some sort of a closet that's become too small. A closet is no place to live, and I want to support as many people as I can in stepping out of that prison into the fullness of life that's waiting for them on the other side of that closet door. I'm Nancy Shadlock from Centered Life Coaching. Join me in listening to these Coming Out Chronicles. Get curious about your story, and then see what good things are waiting for you on the other side of your closet door.
Welcome back to the Coming Out Chronicles. We're getting back to regular time, and I hope that you had a good summer and a good time of, a little space, only every other week. And here we are back at every week. And I wanted to tell you about something super exciting that is coming up already on October 8th. We're setting flight with 12 people on this incredible adventure. It's called the Flame Tree Collective. And I feel like I got this divine download about how to bring people together to experience leadership in a whole new way, less of a hierarchy and more of a synarchy where we're all leading together. And also a space like an incubator for people to get even more clear on what is their vocational purpose in the world and how can they share their giftings, get even more clear on like what is your superpower and how can you share it in the world. And it's a really safe container for people to experience that. It starts on October 8th and there's only 12 seats. If you look on the website at centered.ca-collective, you'll see there's actually a seating plan of an airplane, and we're starting to fill the spots. And so if you're at all curious about doing a crazy adventure with me and learning more about like how can you have more of an impact, how can you share your gifts in the world more, how can you work lighter and more in alignment where you're feeling like, yes, like this is who I am, this work that I'm doing lights me up and I can't wait to do more of it, rather than like that draining space of like, ugh, I guess I should do some more work and get back to work. And like just that tension of no, like when we're actually doing the things that we were created for and the ways that we are naturally gifted, it's energizing and not draining at all. And so I invite you to check out the collective, join us. I'm also offering an info session this Friday. So if you're hearing this today, come on the 24th to experience the collective and try it. Today's guest is amazing, and I can't wait for you to hear all about her superpowers and what she's discovering about herself. And I wanted to make a note that she doesn't just work here in Calgary. She also works online by Zoom. So if she's saying stuff that you're like, ooh, I want to check this out, email her and get connected, because I think this could be so powerful. I'm so excited to have Dr. Tanya Rampersad on the show today.
Hello, nice to be here.
We're doing something a little bit different today. And I realized a while back that I often on the show have people coming and sharing about their coming out story. But I recognize that like I could be offering my coaching services a little bit more on the show and be helping more people in their next coming out chapter. And so I put a call out on my my email following, and I had a few people respond. And so I'm so excited that you're here today. You said that you've been trying to have a new approach of life where you're not just going out and trying to find things, but you're waiting for the invitation. And I love that because it's totally in line with what I talk about in human design and the gene keys. Yeah. And so you got that email and said, I feel like this is my invitation.
Well, it's so funny because I was wanting to contact you and say, hey, what do you think about, doing a different type of coming out? And I was like, oh, no. that's not appropriate. And then I saw your email and I was like, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for sending that out. I was excited.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have you here, and I'm excited to hear kind of the nature of your coming out story that you want to share with us today, and then kind of where you're at in that coming out journey.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I come from a scientific background, and I was a scholar. I put myself through university with scholarships, right? But during my bachelor's studies, Bachelor of Science studies, um, I had a type of spiritual awakening. I'm not saying I'm enlightened by any stretch of the imagination, but a realization dawned upon me. And it was a really beautiful time in my life. And I just remember feeling so much love for everybody, and recognizing that there was so much divine uh, energy in people and around people. And I saw us as we were all connected. And I was trying to integrate that with my assignments. It didn't go very well. It didn't go well. Let's just put it that way. And it didn't go well for either direction, because I remember being and I was like glowing, like I was like so happy all the time. I was just like radiating peace and love. And so people would just stop me. People would just like call me over, and there was a woman with her daughter, and I think they were missionaries or evangelists of some type. And they showed me a picture, like this little picture on a card, and it had a picture of a guy, a little cartoon, and he's in a canoe, and he's about to go over the edge of a waterfall. And he's like, it looks like he's paddling to try to get away, but he's obviously distressed because he's about to go over. And she said, well, what would you do in this situation? Would you pray to God, or would you try to paddle out? And I said, I think I would probably do both. And we got into a conversation, and I said, well, God's in all of us. And that did not go over well. She was like, I can't imagine a world where everyone thinks that they're God. And it was like a total shutdown. I was like, oh, I was like, it's not just me, it's you too. But it's so anyway, so I was engaged in my studies, and I started my master's program in entomology. I was working with bees, and it was just like, I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I was like I was looking into a microscope all the time, literally. And I had a bit of a crisis, and I was like, I don't think I should be doing this. I felt really guilty because I was getting funded to do this research by the beekeepers of Canada, whom, I have like total respect for beekeepers. I don't want to take their money and not give them anything. But I decided to go to a career counselor. And this was way back. The internet was just born. I think we had a search engine. I don't remember what it was called, Copernicus.
Canoe or something.
Yeah. And that's when they had chat rooms. Maybe they still do. And I went and did a search at the advice of this counselor, and discovered naturopathic medicine. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally do that. Like, it's got science. From the looks of it, it was like, had science, and it had this other thing, the wisdom traditions and the respect for nature. And I was hoping a spiritual approach. And when I got there, there was a little bit of a spiritual approach, but it's heavy, very heavy on the medical sciences. And the thing about the profession is, and I think we're still in this position, naturopathic doctors really were wanting public acceptance, wanting acceptance from the government, wanting acceptance from the public, wanting to prove themselves. And the way to do that was to be evidence-based. And so the reason I did learn about homeopathy. Homeopathy is fantastic. Science and homeopathy, again, it's like oil and water. Science just want the current day science, because our science is really not that sophisticated. Like, we think it is, but it's just, there's so much it doesn't recognize. And so, homeopathy gets maligned and attacked. And the things that I loved in my schooling, so homeopathy and visceral manipulation, those are like the most NDs don't like those particular forms of medicine. In fact, there's even a movement to get rid of practitioners like myself from within the profession. And I was still trying to straddle both. I was still trying to do the science and trying to do this other thing, but I was disappointing everybody. I think it came to a head. I realized I had to it really sunk in that I was confusing people. People didn't know what they were getting when they came to me, because I had all these subtle methods for assessing them, which they didn't understand. And yet I was like promoting myself as who knows what. I can't remember. It doesn't even matter. Weight loss or hormone or whatever. And I was using these subtle techniques, these applied kinesiology techniques, not exactly, but some variation of that, and listening to their organs with my hands, which, if you say that, and moving their organs with my hand, I mean, it sounds very crazy, right? If you come from that very strict scientific background. So I was at this party and I ran into a woman. We started having a conversation. And I told her I was a naturopathic doctor, and I felt the wall go up. Like I just felt it come up, right? And then she started saying, oh yeah, that's not for me. I went to a naturopathic doctor once and she did this and this. And I realized, oh my God, that was me. That was me. She was talking about me.
She'd actually gone to you before.
Yeah, she was gone to, and I totally turned her off of naturopathic medicine.
Okay, but what kind of things would turn someone off?
Right. Well, so I would, because I don't believe in a cookie cutter approach. And I don't believe that just because the evidence suggests that this particular supplement is good for this particular condition, that's what you're going to get. I believe it's very individual, because everyone has a very distinct biochemistry. So I would take a supplement, I'd put it on the person, and I would see how their pituitary responds. So I assess that with my hands, or their thyroid, some part of their,
feel it. You can feel it change.
I can feel if it's getting irregular or if it's balancing. So that's what I'm looking for. Is it balancing? Is it making it more normal, or is it making it less regular? So she did not like that, because that was like, wait, she's like, I'm a bookkeeper. I like numbers and facts. And I don't know if I told her it was me or not, but it was like really like, oh my gosh, I'm doing a disservice to my community of naturopathic doctors. Now she thinks that we're all nutballs and, unreliable and into this fluffy stuff, when the reality is most NDs are not into that. And so I talked to a colleague, and he's involved with the college, the regulatory body. And I said, I think I might have to drop all this stuff and not do it, because I'm discrediting my profession. And he agreed with me. He said, yeah. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And it's so funny, because there's I decided to do that, but I just went completely the opposite way. I just said, this felt so wrong that I just said, screw it. I can't do that. Plus, weird things happen, right? Like I turned on my computer, and this session that I had with this woman, she channels, just happened to start playing. And it was from 4 years ago. And it completely, I was ready to hear it 4 years later. And she was talking about how you need to be able to describe what you do. And if you can't describe it, then don't do it. And you have to be able to let people know what to expect, so that you can repel the people that you don't want and attract the people that you do want. And I was like, oh, that's what that's what I'm not doing. So then I spent a lot of time revamping my messaging, and I worked with a coach to get it right, so I'm not confusing people anymore, and I'm just being really clear about things. And yeah.
So what did you change then?
Well, it just keeps going further and further in this direction, right? It's like the more I go, the more I want to go in that direction. I basically it's recognizing that we are, what I say on my website is we're multidimensional beings. I see us as kind of like angelic beings, but I don't know what an angel is. So like multidimensional magical beings. We really are. We have so much power and ability, and we can make things happen in our lives. And even my clients come to me and they tell me, oh, I could eat everything now because I had a discussion with God in my kitchen and I was instantly healed. And now I just eat whatever I want. And I'm like, that's awesome. So these things happen. And so what do I say? I'm focusing on mind, body, how the mind and the body and our illusions that we carry about ourselves manifest, and some of the ancestral stuff as well, how that shows up. And so my job is just creating clarity, interpreting what the organs have to say. Because if there is something that's showing up repeatedly, like even if it's heartburn, very often there is some emotional underpinning there. Yeah. And I want us to recognize our power. I want every individual to be able to value themselves as a unique self, not just trying to be what they think they're supposed to be, right? Because that's what they were taught. That's how they were raised.
So say someone comes to you with that, like that they have constant heartburn. What would you do? And like, how would you work with them? Well,
we talk usually, and I get a sense if they're leaving their body. I don't know how else to describe. Like, I don't see it. I just feel it. I just feel it get really spacey. Sometimes people start talking and I just feel it. And I can tell something's disengaging. They're not held together, or they're not held into their core. So when they talk about things that are charged, I just kind of take note of that, right? And maybe sometimes I bring it up to them and I'll say, did you see what just happened? Did you notice that you kind of broke away there? But at first I didn't realize what was happening. I thought it was me. I thought I was getting MS. I was like, oh, this is happening again. Like, I feel like I'm going to fall over. And it took me a while to figure out that it was them, not me. It would happen in very specific situations, people talking about trauma or things like that. So I just gather clues. Actually, I gather clues even from their intake form. So before they come, they fill out a few things. And sometimes there's just like a word or a phrase, and I'll get that feeling. I'll be like, oh, there's something there. And so we'll discuss it during the consultation. And then I'll do my, it's visceral manipulation, but it's just assessing where in the body things are pulling, or where there's lines of tension, abnormal lines of tension, and the body draws you right in.
So you just put your hands on them and you can start to feel where it is that they have the tension.
Yeah. And so we find out the exact tissue, it's very precise. And then we see if that's connected to something else. So if it's the stomach, let's say it's heartburn, I would want to know. I check all the organs just to see what's going on, because it gives me a fuller picture. And then I want to see how the stomach's positioned. Because if it's a hiatal hernia, meaning part of the stomach's up in the chest, that's easy. Like, I've done thousands of those. That's like super easy to do, right? So that I can just fix. I can fix that in usually the first visit. But if it comes back, then we want to dig a bit deeper. And so then I listen, but more deeply. I listen to the tissue, and it shows me a pattern. It's like trying to communicate. And so I just listen as deeply as I can. Often I'm confused. I'm listening. I'm like, I really don't know what it's trying to say. And then I just start to guess, right? I start to kind of reach out into like the darkness, and, and then I know when I'm getting closer, because you can feel like because you're trying to put words to something that doesn't have words. It's very much an interpretation. And then then I start to get on a roll, and I'll describe what I'm feeling. And it'll either make sense to them or it won't. Most of the time it makes sense to them. And if it doesn't, usually it makes sense to them by the time they come back, like next visit, which might be like a month or 6 weeks out. So, and then we work with that. So sometimes we try to resolve the voices. There's often some conflicting voices that are present. They keep each other pinned in in that confirmation. They hold each other, because this might get activated. This might be like, oh, I really love to do this. And this is like, this is the example I like to use. The grumpy old man is like, why change something? That's, why are you always trying to change something? And so then this goes, well, and so they are in this like stuck pattern together. So we have to find a way that's going to help them both free themselves. If that makes sense. It doesn't really. I know this.
I get it, because I'm in that world, but yeah, the more scientific person might be like, what? How do you see the like spirituality mixing into that?
Well, if you get deep enough, so if you keep listening, you get through layers. There's layers often, and because people bury things in the same place. So it might be like stomach, and you go through the layers. And eventually you get to you get to something that's very core about them. So, and it's usually something very, very beautiful. Like it's just like something that's just pure positive energy or pure brilliance or something. And for whatever reason, they think that that's not acceptable. There's some conditioning in them that has shown them or told them. And sometimes it's apparent that that's not okay, that's not how we are here. We put a lid on that. And so it's like a stifling of who they really are, of what their spirit is here to express. So that's how the spirit part comes into it.
I'm noticing the parallel with your gift that you felt like you had to keep quiet about because it was not traditional with naturopathic doctors. And it's like this pure that you have. But as you stop squelching it and let it come out, it's healing many.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit about like talking to the ruling body and saying like, I need to stop doing this. What have been the hard things about coming out about this in your life and practice?
I guess, yeah, what was hard about, once I started doing it, it was not hard at all. I was like, yeah, why didn't I do this 15